The alien ship emerged from the darkness of space like a predator stalking its prey. Its sleek, metallic surface absorbed the distant starlight, making it almost invisible against the backdrop of endless space. Inside the ship, the tall, gray-skinned beings of the High Council's scout team watched Earth with cold, calculating eyes. They had done this thousands of times before. Observe, analyze, and prepare for another easy conquest. Captain Tom stood at the command center of Heaven's Gate space station, Earth's first permanent orbital habitat. His weathered face reflected on the reinforced glass as he gazed at the beautiful blue planet below. 20 years of service in the Earth Defense Force had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, those instincts were screaming danger. "Sir, we're picking up an unusual energy reading," said Mike, the young radar operator. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic display. "It's unlike anything in our database." Tom walked over to the console, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. The reading didn't make sense. It was as if something was there but trying very hard not to be seen. He had just opened his mouth to order a full scan when the entire station shook violently. The first blast took out their communication array. The second destroyed their defense systems. The third ripped through the station's life support. Tom watched in horror as the mysterious ship finally revealed itself, its weapon systems glowing with an eerie purple light. But the aliens had made their first mistake. They expected panic. They expected chaos. They expected surrender. Instead, Tom hit the emergency beacon, sending a coded warning to Earth. As the station began breaking apart, he ordered all civilian personnel to the escape pods. Then he did something that would change the course of galactic history. He ordered the station's fusion core to overload. The High Council's scout ship moved closer to finish its work. In all their conquests, no species had ever attempted a counterattack during first contact. Their data showed that primitive civilizations always froze in fear when faced with superior technology. They never considered that humans might be different. The explosion from Heaven's Gate Station was visible from Earth's surface. The fusion core's detonation created an electromagnetic pulse that completely disabled the alien ship shields. As it drifted, damaged and vulnerable, Earth's response fleet emerged from behind the moon, where they had been conducting routine exercises. Fleet Commander James watched the disabled alien vessel on his main screen. His orders were clear: capture if possible, destroy if necessary. The alien ship tried to run, but its damaged systems made escape impossible. Within hours, humans had done what no other species had managed in 10,000 years. They had captured a High Council vessel. Inside the captured ship, human scientists discovered something that sent shockwaves through Earth's military command. The aliens had invaded thousands of worlds, following the same pattern every time. Their database showed that most civilizations surrendered after the first show of force. Those that resisted were quickly overwhelmed by superior technology. But their tactical programs were rigid, predictable. They had never faced an enemy that would sacrifice a space station as a weapon. The surviving aliens were even more shocked by their human captors. Instead of executing them, as their own species would have done, the humans provided medical care and asked questions. They wanted to learn, to understand. This behavior did not fit any of their conquest models. When the High Council received the report of their failed first contact, they dismissed it as an anomaly. Surely these primitives had just gotten lucky. They would send a proper war fleet and end this quickly. But in the depths of space, the warning had already begun spreading. Humans were different. They didn't follow the rules of warfare that had governed the galaxy for millennia. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and most worryingly, they learned from every encounter. Tom hadn't survived the station's destruction, but his final act had changed everything. In the years to come, his name would be remembered not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. He had shown the universe something it had never seen before, a species that would rather die fighting than live on their knees. The High Council was about to learn why humans would become the most feared warriors in the galaxy, and this was only the beginning. The High Council's war room was filled with tension as they watched the battle recordings for the 100th time. Their tall, gray bodies leaned forward, their large eyes fixed on the holographic display showing human combat footage. Something about these creatures deeply troubled them. "Impossible," muttered the chief analyzer, his long fingers tapping nervously on the metallic table. "They turned their mining ships into weapons. They're using construction equipment as armor. No species has ever displayed such creativity in combat." The humans had done the unthinkable. When the High Council's war fleet arrived, they found not just military vessels waiting for them, but converted civilian ships. Commander Jack, leading Earth's makeshift fleet, had ordered all mining lasers to be modified for combat. The aliens watched in disbelief as human mining vessels used their industrial-grade cutting beams to slice through warship armor. But it wasn't just their improvised weapons that worried the Council. The humans fought in ways that defied all known combat logic. When cornered, instead of surrendering, they became more dangerous. Damaged ships would ram into alien vessels. Crews of dying ships would send out false distress signals to lure in their enemies. "Look at this one," said another council member, highlighting a particular battle. "Their ship lost all weapons, but they used their maintenance drones to blind our sensors with repair foam. They're turning everything into a weapon." The footage showed more disturbing patterns. Humans could fight for days without rest, taking stimulants to stay awake. They sealed off damaged parts of their ships and kept fighting, even when half their vessel was exposed to space. Their medics could keep badly injured soldiers alive and fighting through methods that seemed primitive but worked. Commander Jack's voice crackled through their speakers, intercepted during a battle. "If it moves, we can fight it. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Keep pushing forward." The High Council members shifted uncomfortably. No species had ever shown such determination in the face of superior technology. On the front lines, Jack watched his fleet grow stronger with each battle. His crews learned to predict alien attack patterns. They discovered that High Council ships always followed the same tactical protocols that could be used against them. When the aliens expected them to retreat, they advanced. When they expected an attack from the front, humans struck from below. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we've modified the cargo containers like you asked. They look just like our escape pods now." Jack smiled grimly. The aliens had a habit of capturing escape pods, hoping to gather intelligence from survivors. They would soon learn that humans could turn even their mercy against them. Those cargo containers were filled with surprises: electromagnetic pulse devices, virus-carrying computer cores, and other nasty tricks. The High Council's elite warriors, used to fighting opponents who followed standard combat procedures, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to break every rule of warfare. Humans didn't just fight with their weapons. They fought with their minds, constantly inventing new ways to survive and win. "They're adapting too quickly," warned the chief analyzer. "Each defeat makes them stronger. They study our weapons, our tactics, our technology. They're learning things in weeks that took other species centuries to understand." But what terrified the Council most was the human capacity for endurance. Other species surrendered when their casualties reached a certain percentage. Humans seemed to fight harder as their losses mounted. They had no conception of acceptable losses. They would sacrifice everything to win. In the darkness of space, Jack's fleet continued to grow. More mining ships were being converted. Cargo vessels were being fitted with armor plating. Civilian space stations were being turned into fortresses. Humanity was transforming everything they had into tools of war. "Send word to all ships," Jack ordered, his voice steady and determined. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting to show these aliens that humanity will never bow to tyranny. And if they want to learn why we're the most dangerous species they've ever faced, we'll be happy to teach them." The High Council's data had never predicted this. They had conquered species with better technology, stronger weapons, and larger numbers. but they had never faced an enemy that could turn their own strengths against them, that could adapt so quickly, that simply refused to accept defeat. They were beginning to realize that they had awakened something unprecedented in the galaxy: humanity's full potential for warfare. The elite warriors of the High Council stepped out of their landing ships into the frozen wasteland of Earth's Arctic region. Their thermal suits struggled against the biting cold as they moved forward in perfect formation. These were the best fighters in the galaxy, veterans of 1,000 conquests. Their mission was simple: find and eliminate the human resistance base hidden somewhere in this icy desert. Lieutenant Mary watched them through her binoculars from 2 miles away. Her small team was spread out across the landscape, wearing white thermal gear that blended perfectly with the snow. The aliens were good, she had to admit that, but they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed humans couldn't survive long in these harsh conditions. "All teams in position," whispered the radio in her ear. Mary smiled. The aliens had no idea that humans had been fighting in extreme conditions for thousands of years. While the invaders relied on their technology to survive the cold, her soldiers had trained for months in these conditions. They knew every crevice, every ice formation, and most importantly, they knew how to use the environment as a weapon. The first sign that something was wrong came when the alien sensors started failing. The humans had discovered that their equipment couldn't distinguish between ice crystals and the special reflective powder Mary's team had spread across the snow. The aliens' perfect formation began to break as their visibility dropped to near zero in the artificially created ice storm. "Now," Mary ordered quietly into her radio. The snow beneath the alien warriors suddenly collapsed, dropping them into carefully prepared pit traps. Their advanced armor did nothing to help them climb out of the ice-slicked holes. As they struggled, human snipers picked them off one by one with special rifles designed to work in extreme cold. The High Council commanders watching through their warriors' helmet cameras couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans were not just surviving in conditions that should have killed them. They were thriving. They moved across the ice like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Their primitive projectile weapons, modified for the cold, worked perfectly while the aliens' energy weapons struggled against the extreme temperatures. But the Arctic was just the beginning. In the scorching deserts of Earth, another alien battalion faced equally devastating defeats. They discovered that humans had dug vast networks of underground tunnels. Their warriors would be tracking the human target across the sand only to have it disappear completely. Then attacks would come from behind, below, anywhere but where they expected. These humans, reported one surviving alien commander, they don't fight like warriors. They fight like the planet itself. In the desert, they become the sand. In the ice, they become the snow. In the forests, they become the trees. How do you fight an enemy that becomes one with their environment? Mary's team continued their devastating campaign. They didn't try to match the aliens' superior technology. Instead, they used simple tricks that had worked in human warfare for generations. They set up false camps to draw alien attacks. They used the ice to amplify their radio signals, confusing alien communications. They even trained local Arctic animals to alert them to alien movements. The High Council had never seen anything like it. Their warriors were dying not from superior weapons or tactics, but from simple things: hypothermia when their tech failed, falls into hidden crevices, or precisely placed shots from primitive rifles. The humans had turned the entire Arctic into a weapon. "Submit your report," demanded the High Council to their field commander. The response they received sent chills through their command center. Humans are not just soldiers. They are survivors. They don't need technology to be lethal. Every environment on their planet is a death trap, and they know how to use them all. We're not fighting an army. We're fighting an entire species that has mastered the art of survival in conditions that would kill most life forms. Recommend immediate withdrawal from Earth's polar regions. Mary stood at the edge of a cliff, watching the alien ships retreat into the sky. Her team had just proved something important. Humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons or technology. It was in their ability to adapt, to survive, and to turn any environment to their advantage. The High Council's elite warriors had just learned that humans didn't need advanced technology to be deadly. They just needed a battlefield, any battlefield. Colonel Pete sat in the dim light of his command center, a small smile playing on his weathered face. On the screens before him, dozens of red dots showed alien patrol ships moving in their usual patterns. The aliens always followed the same rest cycles, the same patrol routes, the same response protocols, and that was exactly what he was counting on. "Send in the ghost ships," he ordered quietly. Across the solar system, empty human vessels began drifting into alien patrol routes. Their engines were cold, their systems seemingly dead. To alien scans, they looked like abandoned ships, casualties of previous battles. The High Council's warriors had standing orders to investigate any human vessel for valuable intelligence. The alien crews grew increasingly nervous as they approached these derelict ships. In the past few weeks, many of their fellow warriors had simply disappeared while investigating similar vessels. Some ships had been filled with deadly viruses that could penetrate their environmental suits. Others exploded when boarded. Some contained nothing at all, but their presence had drawn patrols away from their posts, allowing human strike teams to slip past their defenses. "They're starting to hesitate," reported Pete's tactical officer. "3 patrol ships have bypassed potential targets in the last hour." Pete nodded. This was phase 1 of psychological warfare, making the enemy afraid of something as simple as an abandoned ship. The aliens never knew which wreck might be a trap, which distress call was genuine, which debris field might hide a human strike team. The constant uncertainty was wearing them down. The next phase began at exactly 300 Earth time, the middle of the alien rest cycle. Every human ship in the system began broadcasting on all frequencies. They played sounds that the aliens found disturbing: human laughter, children's songs, the roars of Earth's predatory animals. Mixed in with the sounds were the screams of alien warriors taken from their own distress calls. In their ships, the alien warriors couldn't sleep. Their commanders reported increasing signs of stress. Their species had evolved in a world of order and predictability. The humans' constant psychological attacks were pushing them far outside their comfort zone. Some warriors began to jump at shadows, seeing human ships in every asteroid field. "Sir," said one alien commander to his superior, "my warriors are refusing to board any more human vessels. They say the humans don't think like rational beings. Every defeat makes them more cunning, more ruthless. We cannot predict what they will do next." Pete's strategy went deeper than just fear. Human ships would appear on alien scanners, then vanish completely, only to reappear somewhere impossible. Patrol routes that had been safe for weeks suddenly became killing zones. The humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The High Council received disturbing reports from their frontline commanders. Warriors with years of combat experience were requesting transfers away from human-controlled space. The humans had somehow turned space itself into a psychological weapon. Even the void between stars now felt threatening. "Let me explain what these humans are doing," reported the chief psychologist to the High Council. "They're not just fighting our warriors. They're fighting their minds. Every human trap, every trick, every unexpected attack plants seeds of doubt. Our warriors are beginning to believe that the humans are not just physically dangerous, but that they possess some kind of dark intelligence that we cannot comprehend." In his command center, Pete watched as another alien patrol fleet altered its course to avoid a sector where they had lost ships the previous week. His psychological warfare wasn't just making the aliens afraid. It was making them predictable. By avoiding certain areas, they were funneling themselves into killing zones. By becoming cautious, they were becoming vulnerable. "Humans," the chief psychologist continued his report, "have mastered something we never considered a weapon: fear itself. They don't need to destroy our ships to win. They just need our warriors to believe that every shadow might hide death, every quiet moment might be interrupted by horror, every routine patrol might be their last. They have turned our own minds against us." Pete looked at his watch and smiled. It was almost time for the next phase. Soon, the aliens would learn that all their previous fears had been justified. The humans were about to show them something new, something that would give their warriors nightmares for generations to come. The psychological war was about to become very, very real. General Anne stood before the captured alien warship, her eyes scanning its sleek surface with intense interest. Around her, teams of human engineers swarmed over the vessel like ants, taking it apart piece by piece. Each defeat, each captured ship, each broken piece of alien technology taught humanity something new. And humans, unlike any species the High Council had ever encountered, learned fast. "Look at this, General," called out Chief Engineer Bob, holding up a twisted piece of alien metal. "Their hull isn't just armor, it's alive. It repairs itself using some kind of biological process." He grinned widely. "But we figured out how to make it work with our steel. Imagine our ships with living armor that heals itself." This was what terrified the High Council most about humans. When they defeated other species, those species stayed defeated. But humans, they took their defeats and turned them into weapons. Every time the aliens destroyed a human ship, the next human vessel they faced was stronger, better, deadlier. The alien flagship commander watched in horror through long-range sensors as the latest human fleet approached. Their ships were monstrous hybrids of human and alien technology. Where their engineers had failed to understand alien tech, they had simply forced it to work through brute force and creativity. The result was ugly but devastatingly effective. "Impossible," he muttered as his sensors registered the readings. "They've taken our shield technology and linked it to their primitive nuclear reactors. The power output is off the charts. They're doing things with our technology that we never even considered." Anne walked through her flagship's corridors, touching the walls with pride. The ship was a testament to human adaptability. Alien power cores pulsed next to human steam systems. Modified alien sensors worked alongside traditional radar. The aliens had called it an abomination. She called it progress. "New contact," shouted her radar operator. "High Council super dreadnought coming in fast." Anne smiled. The aliens still thought that bigger ships with better technology would win the day. They hadn't learned that humans had stopped playing by those rules. Her fleet carried a surprise: human-modified alien weapons mounted on fast, agile Earth ships. The aliens' own technology was about to be used against them in ways they had never imagined. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Thunder," she ordered. Her fleet split apart, each ship performing maneuvers that the alien tech said should be impossible. The stolen and modified alien drives screamed in protest as human engineers pushed them far beyond their designed limits. But they held together, just like humans always did when pushed too far. The alien super dreadnought fired its main weapon, a beam of pure energy that could cut through normal ships like paper. But these weren't normal ships anymore. The human vessels caught the beam in modified alien shields, channeled it through jury-rigged systems, and threw it back with twice the power. "Status report," demanded the High Council as their mighty ship began to fall apart under its own reflected energy. The humans, came the terrified response. "They're not just using our technology. They're improving it. They've taken our greatest weapons and made them greater. They don't care about proper procedures or safety protocols. They just make things work." Anne watched as the alien super dreadnought, pride of the High Council fleet, broke apart under the combined fire of her hybrid ships. Each piece of debris would be collected, studied, and used to make human ships even stronger. This was how humanity fought, not just with weapons, but with endless innovation. Back in the High Council chamber, the military advisors presented their latest analysis. "These humans," one reported, his voice shaking, "they're like a virus. Each time we attack them, they don't just survive. They absorb our strengths. They take our technology, our tactics, our knowledge, and they twist it into new forms. They're not just learning from defeat, They're evolving through combat. General Ann looked at the plans for the next generation of human ships already taking shape in Earth's shipyards. They were beautiful monsters, combining the best of human ingenuity with stolen alien technology. The High Council had made a crucial mistake. They had given humanity access to advanced technology, while simultaneously teaching them the art of war. They were about to learn why that was the worst mistake any species could make. Captain Robert watched the stars through the viewport of his diplomatic vessel. Around him, representatives from 20 different alien species sat in anxious silence. They had all come to learn the same thing: how the humans defeated the undefeatable High Council. More importantly, could they learn to do the same? The ship was headed to a small mining colony that had been under High Council control for 3 centuries. Its people, the blue-skinned rock-breakers, had never dared to resist their oppressors. But that was about to change. "Your people have been miners for generations," Robert said to their leader, a sturdy alien named Stoneheart. "The High Council thinks this makes you weak. They're wrong. It makes you strong. You know how to break rocks. Now let us show you how to break chains." The humans had discovered something remarkable as they pushed the High Council back. Every conquered species had potential that their oppressors had never recognized. The rock breakers' mining charges could become weapons. Their digging machines could create hidden bases. Their knowledge of tunnels and cave systems could turn their whole planet into a fortress. "Watch and learn," Robert told them, starting a holographic display. It showed human battles, but not just victories. He showed them defeats, mistakes, and how humans learned from each failure. The aliens watched in wonder as humans turned mining ships into warships, construction tools into weapons, and simple tricks into powerful strategies. "You don't need advanced weapons," he explained. "You need determination. You need creativity. Most importantly, you need to stop fighting like the High Council expects you to fight." Word spread quickly across the galaxy. Wherever humans went, rebellion followed. But not mindless rebellion. Calculated, strategic resistance. Human advisors taught other species how to use their unique abilities and knowledge against their oppressors. The water dwellers, who had been forced to farm sea crops for the High Council, learned that their understanding of ocean currents could hide underwater bases. The sky gliders, used as simple cargo haulers, discovered their natural flying abilities made them perfect guerrilla fighters in their gas giant home. "Sir," reported a High Council commander, "it's spreading like wildfire. The humans aren't just fighting us themselves, they're teaching everyone else how to fight us too. Each species is developing its own combat style based on human principles." Robert's ship visited planet after planet. On each world, he showed them the same thing: humans failing, learning, and coming back stronger. The message wasn't just about fighting. It was about believing in the possibility of victory. "Your greatest weapon," he told a group of former slave workers, "is up here." He tapped his head. "The High Council thinks they're superior because they have better technology. But humans proved that technology isn't everything. Will, determination, and creativity can overcome any weapon." In the High Council's central chamber, reports flooded in from across their crumbling empire. Species that had been docile for thousands of years were suddenly showing human traits in combat. They were adapting, improvising, and most worryingly, working together. "The humans have done something unprecedented," warned the chief strategist. "They've shown the galaxy that being different isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Each species is learning to fight in their own way, using their unique traits that we always considered useless." On a distant mining world, Robert watched as rock breaker ships practiced combat maneuvers alongside human vessels. Their ships were ugly, improvised things made from mining equipment and stolen High Council tech, but they were effective, just like humanity's first space fleet had been. "Remember," he told them, "the High Council thinks war is about having the best weapons. Humans know it's about having the strongest will. They've ruled through fear for too long. Now it's their turn to be afraid." The rebellion was spreading, but not as a single unified force. Each species fought in their own way, using tactics inspired by humans, but adapted to their own strengths. The High Council had spent millennia creating an empire where every species knew its place. Now humans had shown them all that they could choose their own place and their own way to fight back. Commander Bill walked through the halls of the newly established Earth Defense Academy, his footsteps echoing off the polished floors. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes moved with purpose. Some had tentacles, others wings, some floated on cushions of air. All of them were here to learn what had made humans the most feared warriors in known space. 5 years had passed since the High Council's surrender. Their mighty empire had crumbled not through a single decisive battle, but through 1,000 small rebellions, each taught and inspired by humans. Now these same species sent their best and brightest to Earth to learn the art of human warfare. The first lesson, Bill told a class of alien students, isn't about weapons or tactics. It's about understanding why humans became such effective warriors. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's long history of warfare. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or even the smartest. We were simply the most stubborn, the most adaptable, and the most willing to learn from our failures. In another part of the academy, alien observers watched in amazement as human instructors demonstrated their famous adaptability. They turned simple tools into weapons, found ways to survive in lethal environments, and showed how to turn an enemy's strength into a weakness. A reformed High Council member, now serving as a student, raised his hand. But surely there must be some secret, some special human trait that makes you superior warriors. Bill smiled and shook his head. That's what your council kept trying to find. And that's why they lost. There is no secret. Humans aren't special because we're better. We're special because we never stop trying to be better. We learn from everyone, even our enemies, especially our enemies. The Academy's training grounds were a testament to this philosophy. Rock breakers taught humans their techniques for underground warfare. Water dwellers shared their knowledge of aquatic combat. Sky gliders demonstrated aerial maneuvers that defied traditional physics. Humans learned as much as they taught. Your greatest weapon, Bill explained to his class, isn't your technology, your strength, or even your tactics. It's your will to survive, to adapt, and to protect what matters to you. Humans didn't become feared warriors because we could kill better than others. We became feared because we showed the galaxy that anyone could become a warrior if they had enough determination. In the Academy's central hall, a memorial stood showing the first human victory against the High Council, the sacrifice of Captain Tom, and the Heaven's Gate space station. Next to it were displays of other pivotal moments. Lieutenant Mary's Arctic campaign, Colonel Pete's psychological warfare, General Ann's hybrid fleet, and Captain Robert's diplomatic mission. Look at these moments, Bill told his students. In each one, humans were outgunned and outnumbered. But we won because we refused to fight the way our enemies expected us to fight. That's the real lesson of human warfare. There are no rules except survival. The High Council's reformed government had finally understood this truth. They now sent observers to study at the Academy, learning not just human tactics, but human adaptability. Their reports back home all said the same thing. The humans aren't teaching warfare. They're teaching evolution through combat. In orbit above Earth, ships from 100 different species trained together in massive war games. Each species brought their own tactics, their own strengths, their own ways of thinking. And the humans learned from them all, just as they taught their own lessons. Remember, Bill said, concluding his lecture, humans aren't the most feared warriors because we're the best at fighting. We're feared because we showed the galaxy that anyone can become a warrior. We're feared because we don't just win battles. We change how battles are fought. But most importantly, we're feared because we fight not for glory or power, but for the right of every species to be free. As he looked out at his alien students, Bill saw the future of warfare in the galaxy. It wouldn't be about who had the biggest ships or the strongest weapons. It would be about who could adapt, who could innovate, and who had the strongest will. The humans hadn't just taught the galaxy how to fight. They had taught it how to evolve. And that was why they would always be the most feared warriors in the galaxy.